Hopefully you'll stay on and know that I'm talking to you. So hello, everybody. I'm Sudha Jamte, and this is episode 20 of Sudha Live, our weekly live stream, our fun conversation on Friday evenings here in Silicon Valley and morning, beginning of weekend for most of Asia. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. I am recording this, so I have invited a select few of my students here. So if you are here on Zoom, you don't want to be on video, please turn off your cameras. Then you're good, but you're welcome to raise your hand or ask questions and comment. That's the privilege of being here. And I also have a guest speaker who is going to talk to us very soon. So we will go for about 45 minutes. That's what I'm trying to stick to that schedule consistently. And for those of you who are just checking this out and say, what is this about? It is about AI opportunities. So I will be talking about jobs, events, fellowships, speaking ops, and interesting fun things happening in the AI world. But the way I've structured it is I like to sing the praise of my students. So I'm going to start by congratulating some of my students on interesting things they're doing. And then I have two segments. One is about a community and identity. So you'll find out soon as I introduce the speaker. And then the third segment today is about AI and art. Is it AI in art, AI with art, art with AI making art? You'll find out very soon. Okay. So wherever you are, you can chat with me. Yes. Hi, Pamela. Thank you for joining me. I see more people joining on various channels. I know I can multitask, but I'm going to stick here on Zoom and I'm going to answer your questions on LinkedIn. Anywhere else, I'm just going to circle back and then respond later. So thank you, Pamela. In fact, I am going to start by congratulating Pamela. She doesn't know that. Because in my first segment, I said I like to congratulate my students on interesting things they're doing. So October 12th, I'm going to share that screen. October 12th was Ada Lovelace Day, and Paratus people actually showcased 8 women, and they said, meet 8 female trailblazers of IoT. And I'm honored to be part of that group. And Christine Chen, congratulations, Robin Sutra, Hannah Kalantari. I hope I'll get to know these people. I don't know them. You can recognize me. Amanda Healy. I know Amanda Healy from Cisco. And Tejumade. Do you remember Tejumade Afonso? She is a deep learning expert. And she is the founder of AI Saturdays Lagos. She's doing her master's, or maybe she's finished her master's in deep learning. So she was there at IoT Women's Planning event when we did that in April. And here is Pamela. I'm honored to call Pamela my student. She's an expert in the cybersecurity space and is the CEO and president of OutSecuring. So she comes with a deep background in cybersecurity. On top of that, she's focused on how AI and cybersecurity comes together. And she's taken my AI ethics course. So congratulations, Pamela. Aisha Tukodapi is one of my students and an amazing, amazing, amazing person. She's a peace technologist. And she's out to change the world of NLP by, she took a no-code AI course also with me, but then she just got, I don't know what she did. She just took this and started running with it with NLP. So what Aisha is doing is she wants to bring NLP for Hausa language, which is the 7th most spoken language in the world. Okay. So congratulations, people. So that's awesome. And what else do I have here for you? Let me go check my list. Okay. I've been asking you, I share a list. Is it useful to go share the link anywhere else? I don't mind making it as a newsletter, but I don't want to take on more work unless you guys are going to really find it useful. So the second thing we have is on the 13th, that was on the 12th. And then on the 13th, we had our weekly Wednesday, which we do on every Wednesday. And then I had a student, his name is Baptist.
can be,
Here he
for
is.
example,
Baptist Edelman, he actually spoke.
That will regulate the speed longitudinally.
Okay.
For lane centering, basically, if I can give an example, you have a blind spot monitoring that will check if you want to overtake a car on the highway, if the lane on your left is free, if there is no car in the back of yours, and if you can safely overtake. Otherwise, it may send a torque to the steering controller to maintain the car in your current lane.
Okay, so what is this about? So can anybody make a guess? What are we talking about? Welcome, Spurti. You're new here. Welcome. So what was that? What was the Baptist talking about? You saw the 5 levels of autonomy. That is the SAE 5 levels of autonomy. That's kind of a global standard. What was Baptist talking about? So basically, there is this concept called ADAS, which is driver assisted features that are being added, which are autonomous vehicle features that are being added into cars. And Baptist works on creating level 2 and level 3 autonomy features. And he was talking about adaptive cruise control. But what we do here is we try to start at something that's a business discussion, go all the way deep into the tech. We use no code AI. We are not coding and programming here, so everybody is welcome. But what we try to do is, we wanted to understand ADAS not just as, an English version of what is ADAS, but how is it really done? So he was talking about how the car stays within the lane and lane detection is done. But adaptive cruise control makes sure that if you veer away from your lane, the steering is pulled back and your car is kept within the lane. That happens with self-driving cars, of course, and all kinds of autonomous vehicles. And it is also available as adaptive cruise control feature that he's building. He works at Aptiv, which is a tier 1 provider. So congratulations. And then we had, I think if you look at that, this recording is out there on our YouTube channel. And we also had another student. We are starting this as a new trial to see whether this will be useful for you guys. We go on weekly Wednesday with a speaker series from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, which is 18 hours in Europe, 9 o'clock here in Silicon Valley. So towards the end, last 10 minutes, we invite one of our students who's finished projects at our live lab to come and showcase their work. So we had Suresh Lokaya, learned machine learning. He's a systems engineering person, but he did not know machine learning before. So he took our live lab machine learning class with Julian Carbonell, where we said, you don't need any code, we'll give you a Python collab, but we were using mobility data, MDS data, mobility data specification, which is data shared by KiwiBots and bikes and shared mobility vehicles, sidewalk vehicles. All of them share their trip data, all the data possible with City, so that City can solve for new problems. So we actually have a course going on called No Code AI Data Science for Business Users. We're working with KiwiBot to actually come up with what kind of business problem can we solve, arrive at multiple use cases, and go build a data science AI model. So Suresh just did the AI model piece with machine learning with MDS data, and he walked us through. So Baptist's presentation and Suresh's presentation is available on our YouTube. We just streamed this afternoon. So if that's of interest, go check it out. Okay. So with that, what else have I got? I need my glasses to check what else I have in the list. While we are talking about autonomous vehicle, I have to tell you this thing. So I've been teaching AV and now I'm teaching AI and AI ethics. So we have an exciting thing going on in the AI ethics curriculum. If you go to bit.ly/weeklywed, it's where you join for Weekly Wednesday. So next week, I'm going to be the speaker talking at Weekly Wed, but I'm going to talk about how to make autonomous vehicles inclusive, AI in AV. It's not about moral machines, moral dilemma that you talk about. If you want to check MIT moral machines, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how to make the autonomous vehicle inclusive. So come check it out. If you're already not part of it, bit.ly/weeklyved, you can join us. Okay. And the other thing that's happening is Susanna Raj, our AI ethicist, has been teaching a course called AI Ethics, Inclusive AI. And she talked to us about emotions AI and how what we have today is not based on sound cognitive science, data bias, that's her specialty. So she has a live lab for us. So we have a live lab for everything. So even if you're doing AI ethics, it's not just about talking and saying, oh my God, there is bias and this is not good and it's ethically right or wrong, but what do you do about it? We want you to get comfortable with data and AI and go deeper, hands-on. You could be a business development person. You could be a psychologist, like Susanna is a psychologist. And I've not seen anybody more comfortable with data than Susanna. So if you go to bit.ly/inclusive AI, I'm going to walk you through. We have a surprise for you. Let me see if I have a tab open that I can show it to you live. I like the challenge of life. If something breaks, it's kind of exciting how we can fix it. Where is my window? Okay, bit.ly/AI live. I can find my window. I have too many windows open. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here is bit.ly/inclusive AI. That leads to this class. And Renee Cummings has finally come back, and we are going to have a Responsible AI course with her. And you can take just Renee Cummings. That's on October 25th, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning as a masterclass. Or if you're just busy, just 2 hours, that's all you can do. Or if you can take a whole course and go back and take the inclusive AI, we don't have, the Susanna's inclusive AI available, but we have the recording, and you can join the live lab. And you can see the syllabus here. And from here, the reason I'm going there is because Susanna has a homework for us. So there's a lot of free things here. If you want to check it out, even if you're not interested in the class, that's okay. But there is a homework that Susanna has for us. So I'm going to show you.
I'm trying to continue from our last episode, which was on construct definitions in inclusive AI. So this homework is based on that. I hope you remember we talked about define a phase and how it should be defined while you are doing, if you're doing a construct definition for a phase, how it should be defined in every angle, every shape, every size, every shade, every light, every race, every age, every context, every language, every culture, and every place. So based on that, we are going to give you a data labeling project, which we will talk more in depth about actually in another class. But this is your pre-homework that you have to bring so that you actually, when you actually do things, you will actually remember what we talked about. So I'm going to move to the next slide. So this is your assignment. So you will be gathering 2 images. Both of those images will be about movement. So think about the construct definitions of what movement is and what it means to you, and what it means to you in terms of whether it's an action or a thing that you do or you don't do, or what does it mean? What does movement mean to you?
Okay. So you get the idea. So if you're part of the class, it's awesome. If you're not part of the class, I've showed you the path of how you can go from bit.ly/inclusive AI and get to the homework. I would love to get your feedback, see whether you're interested in doing this, and just, sharing what you're thinking as movement as a construct. And in the live lab, the exercise we will do is we use a platform called Playment. And we will actually go through a data annotation exercise of labeling a data set. And so the picture is a data in that example. So you can take a bunch of pictures. That's what we're going to do. Okay. So with that, I am ready to introduce you the new speaker or amazing speaker, my friend, Robert Schwentker. I'm going to invite him here to the screen. And I remember while we were talking about, movement, Robert ended up, coming from an arts background. And He's a technologist and somebody I respect in the developer community, in the startup ecosystem. And I have worked with Robert to run the Twitter meetup right when Twitter was launching up their API. So Robert, welcome.
Thank you, Sudha.
Okay.
Very nice to be here.
Thank you. So you have an exciting event you were part of just this morning. Talk to us about it.
Sure. You might have heard that Twitter is attempting to get into the decentralized web space. They're doing it through a project that they announced a couple of years ago. Jack Dorsey mentioned this in 2019 on a tweet that Twitter was funding a project called Bluesky.
Okay.
And Bluesky really represents a community of decentralized web technologists. And
okay, can you tell us what is decentralized web technology?
Sure.
Yeah.
So we may think of centralized web services we use and consume every day. And for instance, our email may live on Gmail. So therefore, in some sense, Google has control of our Gmail. And Facebook has some aspect of our social identity. And LinkedIn also has some of our professional identity. Yes. You may have heard recently that China is shutting down LinkedIn in China. And an interesting example of one's professional identity vanishing, right? So there's a big attempt to restore certain attributes of one's web activities to oneself. And you may have heard of self-sovereign identity that I can control myself, that I can share as I wish and such. And so there's a whole movement now that's been gathering steam, I think, since maybe 10 years ago or so, as we started to sort of open source the web. The open source movement, I think, is representative of these types of technologies that are occurring. So does that give you a flavor of
So is that related to blockchain, or is blockchain just one element of this?
Blockchain is certainly one element of this, in the sense that a good example that people often talk about is the Bitcoin blockchain or the Ethereum blockchain, where one holds one's own value in some sense. That if I own the keys to some Bitcoin or Ethereum on those particular blockchains, they're mine. However, if I use a service like Coinbase, they in fact are holding my keys. So they really are kind of a centralized mechanism for holding my keys in this so-called decentralized financial ecosystem, if you will.
So what is Bluesky? And if Twitter is just funding it, or Twitter is trying to get something more open source?
Throughout this year, they're setting up an organization separate from Twitter. I believe it'll be an LLC of sorts. And that will be representative of certain sets of technologies yet to be defined, but very similar to the types of technologies that one sees on Twitter today, likely. So there'll be some kind of open source naming scheme, we expect.
Okay.
And I will also drop the link to the Twitter community there. Bluesky Commons is the Twitter link.
Okay.
So Bluesky is the actual Twitter handle for the Twitter organization. So they're looking to create a number of projects under this Bluesky umbrella, which will represent things that we see currently on Twitter. As I said, names of persons, their content, their social graph, if you will. So imagine being able to port your identity from one ecosystem to another. To some extent, we do that today. We use Facebook login, we use Google login, potentially GitHub login, these sorts of things. However, they, again, are controlled by those particular organizations. Can we have a login that we ourselves control rather than an organization control?
So
can we take, yes?
Can you take me one step back? So I understand that I log in using Google or LinkedIn or Twitter, and those companies control it. So they say, hey, we shut you off, and then you're off the platform. And we have a very famous person in US, who was shut out of
Yes.
all platforms for not behaving decently. So so there's control, right? So
good.
when you say that I control my own identity and it is decentralized, what does that mean? Because here we like to go deeper into the tech, even in English version of that.
But of course.
Helpfully.
So let me say, this is an issue that many people are addressing, and I myself am not have deep expertise in this particular area, but and there's also some big complexities about that. You may have heard that many people have earned or gained or purchased Bitcoin or Ethereum or these other cryptocurrencies, and they lose their keys. And so they're suddenly out of control of their financial assets. So having an identity brings quite a lot of responsibility, an identity that's potentially decentralized. So how does one provide for a technological mechanism that allows one to have an identity that can be shared specifically to the people and organizations with whom I want to share, and also protect me from, say, losing my identity mechanism, my keys, be it cryptographic keys, be it a hardware device, be it some mechanism where I use a thumbprint, those sorts of things.
So is this a consumer thing? Like, I remember, given your experience, knowing the developer ecosystem and building out developer ecosystem, the innovation in it, I think, you do so amazing work with that. So I'm expecting this either to be a consumer initiative, which means you have to educate consumers, which is expensive, or developers building on this as a platform. Is that where it is going?
I think the direction right now is from the developer community, the developer entrepreneur community, like we experienced in the early days of the Twitter developer meetup, 2010, 2011,
Yes.
early 2012.
Yeah.
And as we remember, Twitter at that time, similar to what Facebook did, they took away things from developers which they had sort of provided for them initially. Now, remember, they weren't provided as open source code, right? They were provided sort of closed source. However, we've seen some cases where things have been open sourced, and then as upgrades happen, some parts of those open source projects in many different arenas have become closed source, if you will. So this developer and the entrepreneur community has been very active in building out certain parts of this. So there's a Discord also related to this Twitter Bluesky project. So the Discord is where the activity is in some sense happening, the discussions are happening. There's some 4,000 people almost on the Discord platform right now, and there's many conversations going on. Some are around identity, some are around legal and governance, others around moderation, content moderation, the reputation management, and those two particular things are particularly ripe for artificial intelligence types of innovations that are going on. So there's a number of people and number of projects there that are working on how can we do content moderation in an open source platform, in a platform that's in a sense decentralized, that's owned by the community. Reddit struggles with this. I think it's a prime example of how one does content moderation. People often point to the Mozilla organization that has a combination of the company as well as the not-for-profit arm of the organization. And they seem to maintain a nice balance between the two organizations. So where we do see a lot of developer activity and entrepreneurial activity, we also see companies like Twitter attempting to create another organization that will represent more of the decentralized community. Because I think there's some observations that are made by Jack Dorsey and others that there is this trend towards decentralized technologies, and they want to be able to continue to provide services with them, but also integrate and flow with these sorts of things. So imagine one's Twitter ID having a kind of an open source component or a self-sovereign component where I can have an identity that may be specified by Bluesky that I can use on Twitter and Reddit and at LinkedIn.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Ever since I thought IoT, identity was one of those things. You can connect the devices, you can connect everything in a partnership, and data flows. And then there's all this data intermediation. People want to hold the data and create value from there. But where do you log in from? So for example, when we're talking about micro mobility with, the Kiwi bots and the bird and spin and all the blah blah car and all the vehicles, Uber is on a path to say, hey, we are the login. So log in through Uber, and then you can actually take a bike, go to the train station. They have a partnership with public transportation. So then they say, hey, you can just go in and know what the timing is, and then you continue on, and then you hop over and you do something else. And they can track. The whole idea of mobility is that it can track your context. And so identity gives them the key to that context. Now, if Alexa knows I'm here, I get into the car and Alexa knows it's the same person, then she can stitch that context together and seamlessly continue to own me, essentially. It sounds scary. That's fantastic. I took a screen grab of this event because it happened on Twitter as a space, and I missed it this morning. So I don't have the, let me see if I have it.
So, yes, so there was an event today. It was the first in a series of events.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen to show that, Robert.
Please go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. Okay.
So this was an event, thank you, that we put together with some very interesting persons. Tim Bray spent a number of time at Google in the identity group. He spent time at Amazon as well. And there's several people there who've been writing technology standards and such, and have been actively involved.
I see Kalia, identity woman. She's like a guru in this space, right?
Tremendous experience, a couple of decades. She had a conference this week on identity, a yearly conference and such.
Yeah, I remember that. So what happened in this conference? What's the output here?
We had an hour-long presentation that was moderated by a skeptic. So we had a person who was really attempting to poke holes in these ideas of decentralized identity. Why do we need it and such? Abbas Sharma works with a financial services company, and so he's in charge of some of the identity login components of their offering. And so we had a 1-hour discussion with them. Several hundred people attended, and then we had another hour, kind of an after party, as it were, with Q&A among the group.
So how can somebody get involved in this?
I've just dropped the link, the blueskycommunity.net.
Yeah.
And there's also there a link to the Discord. There's also a link to a number of the Discord projects, GitHub projects that are happening. So a number of those presenters have projects that are in GitHub repos that we share. So again, there's a number of elements that are being worked on here. Identity and social graph portability. How can I port my social graph to another social ecosystem? As well as content moderation, reputation. So those are the key areas that are being focused on. And there's conversations about each of those in the Discord channel.
This is fantastic. And as we continue to build AI, that is going to be a thing, right? Like as we build AI, and AI is going to take all our data and do its own thing, then again, where's the identity of what's our identity, who owns it, what is the data it is actually using? If it's going to use one of those walled garden identities, then we won't know transparently even what it knows as metadata about us. And then they could be trading our information, right? This is fantastic. So before we let Robert go, does anybody have any questions? Couple of you who are here, maybe you can ask questions, and those of you who are watching anywhere, if you have a question that you ask me on the comment, I can read it out for you. Otherwise, we will let Robert go, and I'm going to tag him on LinkedIn.
To all of your students, please feel free to stay in touch.
Yes.
If I can be of any help to you, please let me know.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. This is amazing. Thank you so much. We're going to cheer for you and look out for your work. And if there's something that, we can figure out how we'll get involved, maybe, we will get to work with you. Okay. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Thank you
Okay.
kindly.
Yes, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. So does anybody have any comment, question, observation, anything? Because we are at 6:30. I said we're going to do 3 segments and we finished 2. I'm going to try and keep time management so we can all go off into our weekend. Any question, comments, observation? No? Okay. So then I'm going to switch to the third topic that I promised, which is about art and AI. Okay. Let me show you something in that space so you can see where I'm coming from. And this is thanks to Yannick Kilcher, who's a YouTuber. Okay. Let's see this. Oh, I'm sorry. See.
Hey guys, welcome to Forward. We're a new type of doctor's office.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
Symphony, computer scientists just did. This is a description of how a team of computer scientists and music scholars went about finishing Beethoven's 10th symphony. So the 9th symphony concluded with the Ode to Joy, they said, but the 10th symphony is unfinished. There are some scribbles by Beethoven, some ideas, but it's by no means a finished piece of work. So the article details how the team went about recreating something that Beethoven might have written. And this is the important part to get right here. They do not claim that what they produce is Beethoven's 10th symphony as Beethoven would have written it. They say that this is, given the ideas, something that Beethoven might conceivably have come up with. Now, that being said, there is a lot of iterations here. There's a lot of hand engineering, of course. So rather than this being fully AI generated, so I would rather call it a computer-human collaboration to come up with something that plausibly could have happened had Beethoven lived for a bit longer. The article is fairly long, but it concludes with an excerpt from what these people created. That sounds like music, correct?
Okay. So that is AI creating music and has, gets headlines that way. And people are thanking you, Robert. It's in the comments. So thank you. So the last part sounds like music, that bothers me. And similarly, there was one other thing about art and, a technology person showing something that AI created art and said, I don't know art. And they were very proud of it. So if AI is being created by technologists, art is being created by AI, and what does that mean? What does that really mean? Is that really art? Is that looking for patterns to do something that looks like art? Because art for me is about the emotion of the creator, of the person who's creating the music. They had a certain feeling and they're trying to capture that. Especially when the pandemic happened, I remember hearing from somebody from the music world talking about, we'll all be okay when the artists come out and capture how we feel, what is the experience we're going through. At that time, it looked like the pandemic will end in a year and it's still not gone. But artists capture that. And then when we interpret it, we actually have our own interpretation based on what our biases, our memory brings in for us to feel. So an AI is looking for pattern and says, Beethoven did this, this is the math behind the music, and finishes it. I find it very hard to call it art. So, but there is, Spurti says, got to go. Nice to meet you all. Thank you, Spurti. This is all recorded. So wherever this is streaming on LinkedIn or YouTube and Twitter, you can come back, watch it, and it will stay forever, evergreen. And we will also put it on Business School of AI on LinkedIn if you just want to come check it out. Okay, thank you. So the thing with art is there is art evaluation AI. Let me check that. So there is one site I saw which says it is about evaluation of art authenticity. And if you look at a piece of art, was it done by a particular artist, and you can upload it and they will evaluate it and they will tell you. This is like art business. So if AI does that and is looking for a pattern, that's what AI is good at. I'm not surprised. The symphony one we saw, that bothers me whether, that is something that AI can do. I don't know if anybody has any comments on it. If you want to jump in or say anything, you're welcome, and I will give you the floor. I am not an artist, but I do paint, but I have respect for art. I'm more a consumer of art. So I find it very hard to believe that, especially one of the things as I'm, teaching AI ethics and get to work with the likes of Susanna Raj or Rebecca Tweed or Renee Cummings, Anna Shubinitsu, I find that we need more and more diverse set of people of diverse set of backgrounds to come together. And AI is everywhere, and AI is trying to gauge our emotions, and AI is trying to interpret art. And so we need people who have got decades of experience doing this, instead of just a technologist saying, okay, I think this is what is art, because he says looks like art in the end, right? That I felt was pretty insulting. I'm not even an artist, and I felt that was pretty insulting. So I was just curious if somebody has any opinions on that or wants to jump in, add a comment. I will give you the floor. Okay. If not, I'm going to move on. I believe there is a call for paper for art concept, but I am not able to find that handy, so I will have to get to it, guys. Yeah. Susanna, do you know that we had the call for art posters from Valentine Godard? Do we have access to that? Do we have that handy by any chance? Then maybe we can share that with people. So Valentine Godard is somebody who actually has a call for proposal, and her goal is to bring diverse set of people to work together. And she's done workshops to help artists better understand AI, and AI experts to understand how art can be useful. So she's done this thing called pearlai.art. So she has a call for artists and non-artists who want to with an open mind understand what is art. Okay, so I will find that link and share that in a little bit. Okay, if anybody has any comments or experience or anything to add to this, then floor is open, or else I'm happy to move on. Okay, so we are reaching the final leg of our program. So I always promise you to show opportunities in this space. So I already told you about AI ethics, responsible AI, Renee Cumming's class, bit.ly/inclusive AI. You've already seen that. I'm going to put that on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has this funny way of managing comments. So if you go watch the re-recording, you will see no comments. And as you keep on watching, the right point at which the comment was posted was when you will get to see it. So and then when people respond back to that, you have to go back to that point. So you can't just watch the comment, you have to watch the recording to watch the comment in context. So that's how they've decided that would be the right experience for it. So anyway, since I was talking about it, I thought I should share that. So the other thing that is happening is today, October 15th, is the deadline for IoT Slam conference. And let me share that screen too. So here is IoT Slam. Can you see the URL, guys? Yeah. So I have spoken at IoT Slam. It's an online conference. It started out as IoT, but they cover a lot of areas related to IoT and AI and AV and everything. They have a call for papers that's open, and today is when you get to submit your paper. And this is the 17th IoT Slam. and they have such good quality content, and the audience is amazing. The quality of the audience is amazing, and they do this all online from even before the pandemic world. So you can submit a topic, and it should take like 10 minutes of your time if you want to submit it. I would highly recommend it, and I'll come cheer for you. And if any of my students,
Sorry,
yes.
Sudha, I added the Valentine's proposal.
Oh,
in the
thank
chat.
you. Yes, thank you. So if anybody is thank you, Susanna. So if anybody is considering, so any of my students, I've asked many of you to go do some talks and presentations, and out of the work that you've already done. If you want any help in submitting this, I'm happy to do a follow-up. If you're not my student, if you still want help, if you're hearing me, I'm still happy to do that. And Susanna has brought us the proposal from Valentine Goddard. So let me share that screen. It's so beautifully done. You can see that it's coming from artists. So here is call for position papers and projects, interdisciplinary machine learning design. So the focus is to bring people of diverse backgrounds together, and it's a position paper. November 1st is the deadline, and you can be anywhere. The actual conference is going to be virtual and happen on November 18th and 19th. This is what it is. And Susanna has shared the link right here. So, okay. So thank you so much. So other than that, I have another exciting thing, which is I have spoken about 100 Brilliant Women in AI before, and they have their annual conference. So I've been inspired by the women I mentioned who are AI ethicists, who actually got me to go do something. But the way I got introduced to AI ethics is from the work of Mia Dand. So here is their annual conference. I think it's like $10, but it's just unbelievable. I think they're just charging us some money so that, we are not just signing up and not showing up. This is like a truly global women in AI ethics group. Nothing else I've seen. So if you want to find, if somebody's working on AI ethics in my nook of the world, you just go to their site, and they maintain a directory. I'm trying to type there to show that to you in case you're wondering what is that noise. I can, yeah. Susanna, do you have that women in AI ethics? It's women in AI ethics, right?
Mhm.
Yes. Okay. So it's loading. So you can actually find women. It's a directory of women from anywhere in the world, and you can actually find out what they're working on, whether there's somebody in your side of the world, and things like that. So I usually show this to all my classes. Women in AI ethics.org. I'm making a typo there, guys. I'm not finding it, so I need somebody to. Women in AI ethics.org. Men in AI ethics.org. Okay, looks like, can I share what I'm doing to see what I'm typing? Does somebody want to help me? So I said women in AI ethics.org. Okay, can somebody else try and see whether, is it something else? Here is the URL of the Eventbrite, and it has their website. So I will put it out here so you can see that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Susanna. So Susanna has come to my rescue once again today about the women in AI ethics, and they have this beautiful directory. And so each year they showcase, they have this list of 100 women in AI ethics that they go through a very arduous selection process, because they have more than 100 women, obviously. They have a list for each year. You can go find them. And you can say, okay, what is their focus? Are they focused on, today we heard about identity, then we say, oh, roles and rights. Or you're focused on data privacy, then you can say, I want to find who is focused on data privacy, things like that. And you can go by that and you can find people, or you can say, hey, where are these women in Africa who is working on that? I didn't mean to say India, it's just Africa. We need more women in Africa to work on this stuff. If you say India, there's women, there's Australia. Last I checked, there were few people in, see, there were only 2 people in Australia. We need more people in Australia too. So if you know anybody, you can, there is a way by which you can nominate and they will add to the list. You can actually follow up, with them on LinkedIn or Twitter, follow them, follow their work, collaborate with them, do everything. It's just amazing. So they find 100 women in AI ethics, 100 brilliant women, because these are brilliant women. And they go through an arduous process in selecting them. So they have a conference, and that's the one I shared. That is coming up. So I've already signed up for it, and I would highly recommend that you do too. So that's it. And then there is a final topic that I was not sure whether I was going to get started, but I wanted to just share that today, and then we can continue and pick up the conversation tomorrow in the next week. So there is a global forum on AI for children. AI for children is one of those untapped topics that not much has been done. And there's a virtual conference by UNICEF, November 30th to December 1st. So I would like to bring somebody who knows what's happening in the AI for children's space and come and have a conversation, educate us. And then maybe, I can remind you guys about this conference again. Okay. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. It was wonderful, having Robert here talking to about us about digital identity and how identity should not be controlled in a walled garden by any one company. I recently found that in WhatsApp, you have an option to export your chat, which is a step forward from not being able to export your chat. But then I have nowhere else to go. Even if I export it from one WhatsApp account, I cannot go back to another account, even within WhatsApp. So this whole concept is hard as a common man to think about it. But I think the whole concept is much needed. I know in the car world, there are many different companies coming together. So when we talk about autonomous vehicle, and there is a technology company creating the AV tech, which is what Baptist was teaching us how it is done. So go check the Weekly Wednesday archive, either at Weekly Wednesday if you're signed up, or online at my YouTube, so you build the tech. So there's the hardware or the manufacturing part that is done, which is the car. And then you have the software layer, you have the data layer, you might have entertainment. You have so many different tech stacks coming together, and it's not owned by one company. So there is a movement to decentralize that identity. So now when you get a Tesla, you log into Tesla and it's a Tesla app and it's only Tesla. Now, if you go to any other company, if they are collaborating with Google or any of the other players in there, then do you have to log into Google to get to your car? Then does that mean Google is going to track my identity from around everywhere else? And I would not like it. So I think there are some car companies like Mercedes who are looking at that, but this whole concept of decentralized identity is being explored in the AV space that I am aware of. They're using blockchain, and various different companies are coming together, saying the user owns the data. By giving you an identity, what it means is you own your data. You log in through that and you control it and you own the data. So it goes back to all the conversation we are having about data privacy. Who owns the data? Is it biased? Is it going to affect me? Then what do I do about data ownership and consent? So with that, I want to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Hope this was helpful. Give me feedback, because I started out saying, hey, I'm going to give you AI opportunities, tell you about jobs and events. I was just giving you a big laundry list. And then I was thinking, okay, people started pinging me and saying, give me the URLs for those. So I have two things. One is I'm trying to streamline what I'm giving you into certain focused topics, like we learned about identity. I talked about AI in art, but I need somebody else who's an artist to come and help us understand that landscape better. And then, of course, I'm here to celebrate my students, which I will do this all the time. So I'm trying to organize the content flow like that. The second thing is, after this, when you want to do a follow-up and say, hey, what was that URL she was talking about? You have to go back and watch the video. And at that point, you can see it. Or if it is being chatted in a LinkedIn, you can go see it. I want your feedback. Is it useful? Can I put it in a newsletter? What would be helpful? So help me, give me feedback, because I take your feedback as a gift and I appreciate that. So with that, let me wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. and stay safe. And I will see you at Weekly Wednesday. And I'm going to be talking about AI ethics in autonomous vehicles. So if anybody's interested in AI ethics or the AV space, bring them in bit.ly/weeklywed. We'll have a fun conversation. And if any of my students who are watching, like Suresh, is anybody, if you've completed any of your projects and you want to show a demo, if you did the NLP virtual assistant, or you did the machine learning class, or you've got something else to show from the previous inclusive AI class, come talk to us. Yash is our host for Weekly Wednesday. She'll be happy to take you on and give you the 10-minute slot so we can cheer for you. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I will see you all back here next Friday, and I'll see some of you back in my class or at Weekly Wed. Thank you, everybody. Bye. And feel free to download the chat. I always leave it open so you can get all the links. So before you go, you can just download a copy of the chat. Okay. Thanks. Bye.